welcome back to Sixes and Sevens Footy Nerds. Special episode this one. I've got my great mate Piercy up here on the Gold Coast with me. He's been staying at my house for the last few days. How's it been, buddy? I'm not going to go hard at you today because you might bash me. I usually attack you through the screen and have a real crack at you, but if you sit on the fence or say something that I don't like, I'll tread easy because I don't want us to get in trouble in here fighting in the room. So how's it been, mate?
Well, at least you know that I could smack you in the mouth. So we got that straight to the footy nerds. Mate, good. It's good to sit front on with you, Toddy, in this sort of setup.
How do you reckon a fight would play out?
No, you can fight. You've had a couple, haven't you? How many fights you had in
I've had 2 charity fights. I've had no street fights because I win by 100 metres, but I've had the 2 charity fights.
Who'd you fight? You had Sando and Scotty Prince, yeah?
Yeah. They were horrible.
Wow.
I worked hard to get there, but it's something that I'd always said I would be interested in doing. I've done it. I've probably ticked it off now. I'm pushing near 40.
How long did you train for when you went into that?
8-10 weeks each time. I had to lose 10 kilos for both the fights. I was super fit and in the best shape, obviously scrawny a little because I had to lose weight. I didn't sort of do any weights, but it was good.
One more charity fight coming up.
Me and you.
Let's do it. We should organise it.
Yeah, it'd be a bit of fun.
Little reboot boxing launch.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why you're here, isn't it? Reboot this Wednesday, where we're doing a special presentation at the school I used to work at for disengaged youth, Men of Business. Myself, you, and Philip heading down to Runaway Bay Sports Centre to chat to the basketball program, rugby league program, and futsal program. Very similar to what we've done at Reborn. With Trav Young and Trent from Freeze Yourself, but it's a little bit more our own story, this one, diving into, like I said, these boys are kids that have sort of not had the lower end of the stick in life, but they've had their challenges, and I think once we share our story with them, it shows that it doesn't matter what part of your life is or where you've been in your life, that you still have struggles, and I think that would be good. I've worked with them, so they understand my journey, but when you sort of dive into your stuff around all your stuff that you talk openly about, I think some of the boys will really dive into it, will help them, and then obviously hopefully in term 3 we'll be kicking off our first in-school program for the 7-week block of term 3, which is exciting. So it's all stepping in the right direction. Everything's sort of going along, and that's good, and that's why you're here. You spent the day yesterday at my house for my little fella's 4th birthday, and you understand what the chaos was like for kids. And I know you're heading back to France in a couple of weeks, but how did you feel? There's a few babies around. What was it feeling like for you?
Yeah, it was good little preparation. It's good to be there for your little one, little lion. Geez, he's growing up quick, Toddy. Little you, which is a dangerous thought. Little young Todd Carney, look out. But, mate, it was good. Obviously, got the baby coming in not too long in the near future, so it was great to be around a bunch of kids. That doesn't sound right, does it? But no, it was a good turnout. It was it's good to be up at your place. The pace of Queensland is a lot slower than Sydney. I always enjoy coming up here and spending time with you and your family. But like as you said about Reboot, I'm excited for tomorrow. We obviously had the launch at Caringbah through Travis Young's gym there with Trent Merrin. It was a great hit. First off, we thought it was a bit of a success, and it was just rewarding seeing the engagement from everyone there on the day. So I'm really excited. I came to the mob school when you were working there a couple of years ago, and to see the work you were doing there and the response from those kids. Obviously, like you said, a lot of kids there that had a tough start, or they're looking for a reboot. So hopefully we can pass on some knowledge. And this reboot project for us is obviously a bit of a long game, isn't it? We're slowly putting some things in place, building our team. We've got a couple more psychologists on board. And over this next year, we're excited with some opportunities, aren't we? So hopefully it can be a success again on Wednesday night in front of how many are they expecting there?
About 60 kids. 60 kids and staff and teachers and stuff. We've got a few other people coming along just to see what it's like. But you do say the long game, and at the end of the day, long or short game, these issues don't go away in life. And I guess us pushing our message, it's the right time for us once we've finished our careers, and let people know that if you do struggle, there's a place to talk. And like you said, we're tapping into a few different things. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but there is another reason why you're here on the Gold Coast, and there was a reason why I was in Sydney. last week, and it's fair to say when they say to someone, well, at a young age, you skyrocket to stardom. We're a bit older now, but we might skyrocket to stardom after our display last week. And like I said, I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag with these guys' names, but we sat down with two of the current superstars of the NRL at the moment. And I'm going to leave it at that, two of the current superstars, because I don't want to give too much away. Tomorrow, we'll dive into this a little bit. We're going to sit down with an
old legend,
which is we'll just leave that there. Then we're going to sit down with an old legend into another superstar of our game. Then we're going to sleep for a night, and then we're going to do it again the next day, and then I'm back down to Sydney to dive into this. And this is a special part of Sixes and Sevens. And we've got some, as you keep saying, we've had some bangers, and we've got some bangers to come. And we're going to really tap into, I can easily say, as you said, we talk about Sixes and Sevens. So the people we are interviewing face-to-face with myself and Mitch, and we're going to make sure it's face-to-face so they get both angles from it, from a 6 and 7. These are current or former halves that have played probably a lot better than we did, but we're diving into about what makes them tick. And
it was a good conversation, wasn't it?
Mate, it was because, like I said, we sat down with two superstars last week, and we asked very similar questions, but we get different answers. But it all stems back to the love of rugby league, and we speak about footy nerds on here. And footy nerds is a term that we do because we feel we're nerds, and we have to be nerds to be the best at our game. And the message got delivered again last week. To be good at 6 and 7 in this game of rugby league, you have to love the game. And we've seen that now from two players. Tomorrow we're sitting down with a former player and former coach. And then we've got a few more the following week, which is exciting, isn't it, Mitch? It's about spreading our wings and getting better. We've took advice from obviously the Hollow Sport lads, Tom and Eddie, about how to move forward and get better at what we're doing, and that's continuously giving out content. We listen to our fans and we ask questions, but it's good that we can sort of have the opportunity to fly places, sit down with these guys and get nerdy with them.
It's just great to be able to, especially as an ex-player, you know, when you're playing, you're in that competitive mode and you're always seeking to learn and you're curious, but when you actually retire and you slowly let go and then just actually listen to people that are doing what walk in the shoes of you before, and as you just said, a lot of them doing it better, to see where their minds are at and in that competitive energy. When you step out of rugby league, it's like when you go back. We went to Keebra today, for an example. For those listeners that don't know, Toddy works at Keebra Sports, one of the biggest schools up here in rugby league, and some of the best young kids from Queensland go to that school. And same with me when I do some stuff involved with footy. When you retire and you go back in, it's so good being around young athletes that are in that competitive mindset. But then to actually interview them at a high level when you're retired and you're sort of out of that, like I said, competitive edge, and then to sit with them and get back into that energy. And you know what I'm talking about. It was a really rewarding experience. I suppose that's the beauty of podcasting, and hopefully that could pass on the information that the listeners want to hear too from some of the greats. But mate, it's exciting few weeks coming up, Toddy, and yeah, like you said, hopefully we can take the viewers and listeners on the reboot journey as well, and the lifestyle stuff that we're living and breathing.
When you listened to those guys last week, is there any eagerness to play footy?
No.
Wow.
Oh, it's a good question. I love. I've lost my the thought of going through a footy season and pre-season and all that. You know, you burn the candle a bit after 20 years.
Yeah. But
I'm just in awe of listening to these different guys because, as I said, we've walked their shoes. We were, you know, halves. We're all wide a bit different. People say all the good 7s and 6s are a bit different, and we are. You know that. You got to. There's so much. It's a busy mind being a 6 and 7. It's a creative mind. The best ones have a curiosity to learn, and they think outside the box. And it's great to sit down and, as I said, as a retired player, and listen to when they're in the zone. And one of them, especially, like we said, he was in the zone day in, day out. So it's going to be a great listen.
Mamba mentality, they say.
Yeah,
he had that eye of the tiger, and it was cool because, like you said, we experienced two halves last week that in different stages of their careers, but got the same message, and that's the love of the game. and anything like that. But we like we always say, we dive into everything. We go head first. We don't dip our toe in, and this time is no different. And it's one message that I've got from since retirement is someone always says to me, if you apply yourself to anything outside of rugby league, the way you applied yourself to rugby league, you will be successful at it. And I think that's what we've done. We obviously have so many ideas. This was an idea that we come to fruition. Reboot was an idea that came to fruition. And now we're diving into the lives of current and ex halves, which is cool because we're not everyone's cup of tea. Let's be real. But our listeners listen to us because we're pretty honest with it. But the thing is, we're going to be interviewing our listeners or other listeners from other podcasters' favourite player, and we're going to get in depth with them, what makes them tick and why their 80 minutes of football each week is so complete.
The beauty of listening to all the different personalities, like you said, is you can take something from all walks of life, not just football. I need a cough, Toddy. You can take lessons from all these things from all walks of life, whether you're a footballer or not, can't you? Around leadership and how to be in the zone and processes. You know, that's the stuff I got out of these interviews. And, yeah, mate, it's an exciting journey ahead.
We spoke about this a little bit today, and we'll speak about this before we get into the games from the weekend, is that we talk about a player making a decision. So many times clubs make decisions for players and they have to move on. And there's too many of a list to talk about. But the club's always got the upper hand. First time one player steps out of the box and makes it a decision, and he says it's a decision for himself and a decision for his club for them to move on. And now it seems like he's done so wrong. Where do you see it? Like it's been obviously plastered through the media that he's done the wrong thing. He's off contract. He's been there 10 years. Yes, he might owe the club something, but at the end of the day, when this gets flipped to the other side and the club's had enough of him, I look back to Jared Croker at Canberra Raiders. Jared's still involved with Canberra, but I feel he got harshly done at Canberra. Like, he got pushed out of the club pretty much in a point, like, well, not pushed out, but it looked very ugly at some points, I feel, for Jared when he put so much in the club. But then a player like Cherry decides he's going to leave because it's his best interest and that's what he wants to do, and he gets hammered the whole time.
The funny thing we spoke about, and it's funny, talking about being retired and being out of the bubble, and we were probably two very polarising characters when we played. Plenty of good publicity, but plenty of negative publicity as well. And it's so good when you're watching. And I had so much admiration and respect for Cherry for two reasons. The way he was able to stick by what he wants to do, play it with class, handled it with class. He was honest through the whole process. He's now come out of it. Manly are now looking deceitful because the CEO's come out and basically tried to cover his tracks. And there's some rumours now that it was lies, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So, hats off to Cherry for one, staying courageous to just be basically, this is what I'm doing, and come out and be honest about it. And secondly, we spoke about chaos in and around footballers. He just realises it's all white noise, comes out in the weekend, handles it like a champion and plays outstanding. Because he's older now. If you asked Cherry probably 10 years ago, he might have got affected by that. I'm sure he would say, he might have gone into an Origin or club footy and took on the criticism of the journos. And now we work in podcasts, or you get out of it and you do a bit of Triple M, you realise that, honestly, it is all just shit talk.
It is.
It's just gossip. It's journalists. Nothing against journos. We got some great friends as journalists now.
Buzz Rothfield.
But we're on the other side. We're not journalists. We're for the boys more than on the dark side. But we work in the space of podcasting. We come on here to talk about gossip that's going on in the game. And it's all bullshit. And any player can take a good lesson from what Cherry-Evans has done. He's a senior guy. He's been through all the chaos and all the shit talk of rugby league. He deals with it professionally with class. He's honest through the whole process, then comes out and kills on the weekend and smiles at the camera's face. Hats off to Cherry-Evans.
Yeah, well done. It shows what kind of a person he is, obviously a player. And his players stood up for him on the weekend, and also the fans. Like, we were sitting on the couch yesterday wondering if they'd get booed, but he didn't, which is a credit to the Manly fans that they're all loving him and they want to move on from it also.
They've got no reason to boo him. Like, if you look at Cherry, so we're only looking at one side, just to dive into the subject, if the club's going to lowball Cherry or not really offer him a genuine deal, he's come up with two decisions. Either stay there for less with not maybe he's perceived he's not getting a whole lot of respect, or his management and him have agreed to go, you know what, I'll just take a step back, make a smart decision, and there's going to be probably 10 clubs flushing cash at me with a new opportunity.
Yeah.
So, and as from a Manly fan point of view, he's done nothing wrong. He wasn't approached to contract. So at the end of the day, the club didn't offer him a deal. So they've got nothing but to support him as fans.
And then they throw the dirty laundry about like, oh, we asked for release in 2024 to go to a Queensland club.
Is that true though?
Well, who knows? It's he say and she say. It's one of those things that it always comes out at the back end. Will we ever know the truth? Probably not. But at the end of the day, as you said, Cherry's stuck to his guns. He's not going to go back and want to sign at Manly. He's decided that he'll make some decisions. There's now reports come out saying, well, if he's doing this all for Manly, for them to have the best chance to win a premiership, he should step down from Origin. You can't tell someone to step down from Origin if he's the best player in that position. And like, it's easy for someone to sit there. It's easy for, well, we've been there in that position, but for people that haven't been in the position, you can't just sit down and go, just because he's doing the right thing for the club and making it early, tell him to go sit out from Origin. It's not that easy.
No.
If he's got the fire in his belly to play Origin, which I'm sure he does the way he's playing, he can go play Origin.
So who are they going to sign? Let's just fast forward the tape to there. I want to you put your balls on the line and give me an opinion. Who's Manly signing next year now?
Well, it's an interesting one. I seen Ricky come out yesterday saying that if Jamal and his partner Kayla can secure a long-term deal with good money, he'd be welcome with open arms for him to leave, which is an interesting one from Sticky, but we speak about Sticky. He's one of those guys that has respect for his players, and I'm sure Canberra would love to keep him, but for Canberra, they also probably are worried about how much money he's going to ask for because we know what halves are getting. So there's talk that Manly's chasing Jamal. The thing is, there could be a knock-on effect from where Cherry goes too. A player like him leaves there, and then Adam Reynolds is not offered a deal at the Broncos. Could they chase someone like Reynolds? There's obviously names tossed up. There's talk about Turbo playing 6 and Brooks. I don't know what they've got in their juniors.
The thing is now, but they're going to have to pay whoever they get $1 million.
Correct.
So it is so confusing. You got a club legend who's still fit, who's probably better than those other options. Let's be honest. And not only that, it's he's the piece in the puzzle. He's already been there. He knows the DNA of the club. You're not going to get a guy. The names you tossed up, Adam Reynolds. Well, he's getting a little bit older. Still $1 million player probably on this market.
Yeah.
And Fogarty would be close to 900 plus. So,
well, yeah, it's an intro. Yeah, it's one of those things that it'll be interesting to see where it all falls. But we know that Cherry will make that decision middle of the year, and that will bring out speculation again when that happens. But yeah, like we said, it's well done to him. Yeah,
never ending story. The fantasy of rugby league.
It's the best. As I said last week, it's a roller coaster. There's so many ups and downs, and when we sit in a room like this, we've got so much to talk about because something happens every week. And we might as well dive into our first game of the last weekend. It was only our Thursday night. It was the Rabbitohs up against the Penrith Panthers. Rabbitohs winning 28-12. In a performance which you want to speak about is there was a comment after as the Penrith bubble bursted. I want you to dive into what you said to me about this.
Well, I just said, reputation of a team is different to the actual team that's been put out on the weekend. And Penrith on the weekend, if you look at the spine, Nathan not there, Dylan Edwards not there, and Jerome Luai not there. He's obviously moved on. But the three key players from their spine that's won them 4 comps wasn't on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So were Penrith off? Yes, but it's not the Penrith that we knew. So that's all my comment was. People are sticking the knife into Penrith and saying that their bubbles burst. Well, for me, you can't compare the side that they ran out with on the weekend and expect them to do what the same players did through those premierships. So take a breath. Nathan Cleary will be back soon. Dylan Edwards will be back soon.
He'll be back this week.
And I think we're going to see a completely different Penrith side. But full credit to South. Geez, they're playing well. Obviously, we've said it every week. They obviously fell short in which game did they lose? Remind me. Anyway, they dropped one game, I think, to start the season. But Coming off their trial form, which I commentated their Dragons one for the Charity Shield, they were very average defensively. They just didn't look like the Souths of old. From round one, their form from Dolphins game, their form's been outstanding. Just shows the influence Wayne Bennett has. I was only saying to someone who was watching the game how clear every team Wayne Bennett coaches, all the players just look so clear and prepared every week. They don't have the baggage that some of these other teams have. They don't carry heavy legs in. Yeah, but it might be just winning. But
also the
win?
Wayne effect. Yeah, well, you got to win. You got to prepare, and you go out there and one beat the team, and that's what they're doing at the moment. They're in the dogfight all the time. They're going out. They're completing. We've heaped praise on Humphries for a while now, and he continues to get better in that position. Obviously, Cody Walker's a standout. Jai Gray's a standout for me, and Wayne's obviously come out and said Latrell's back this weekend. They're playing against the Roosters. Massive big game player. He'll come back and he'll slot straight into the one spot. They lose Alex Johnson on the weekend. Unsure when he'll be back. It's a high rib fracture, they're saying. So it's a big loss for him. Obviously, he comes back from a lengthy delay, scores a couple of tries like he does best, and that gets injured.
Getting close to that record, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
And 15 tries to go, I think, now.
Yeah, so Latrell comes back for the Bunnies. Where does it change for him?
It's going to be interesting because, as you said, what you lose with Latrell, you gain in tenfold with Jai Gray, which is effort areas, a fullback that's on the ball all the time, a little jack in the box. With Latrell, you get the best form of Latrell. You get way more presence. You get more of a physical body, and you just get an out-and-out superstar in a whole different way. But I just don't think they'll get the same fullback that's in the moment, play after play. And a lot of their success has been coming off those little effort areas.
Yeah.
Jai Gray's efforts to just pop up in the right places at the right time. His fourth tackle carries. He's been super. So it's going to be interesting to see. And then obviously with Latrell, sometimes when you bring a superstar like that back, some other players around stand back because he's got that presence. They're intimidated, or probably intimidation is probably not the right word, but sometimes some players stand back, or Latrell's back. It's his ball. So I'm keen to see how the dynamic or the momentum keeps flowing for South. There's no doubt you need to hit Latrell in your team.
Yeah, but
it's going to be they've got some momentum, so it's going to be interesting to see how that affects.
Massive game against the Roosters. Obviously, we'll touch them that Wednesday, but there's now an opening for Latrell to jump in the centres and move one of their centres to the wing with Alex Johnson being injured. Will Wayne attempt to do that, or will he stick to his guns where Wayne's always does? He knows what he's doing. So
when's he name this?
He'll name the side tomorrow. The teams will be out tomorrow or Wednesday. So, but either way, it's an important clash up against the obviously two rivalry clubs that they always turn up for. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, well done to South. They continue to impress. Like you said, I've had doubts about them from their preseason trials, but they continue to find a way to win, and that's on the back of their go forward and some classy football from Cody Walker. He just continues to get better. He's just a competitor, but he makes everyone play on his play.
You talk about Cherry-Evans and how good he is for his age with his legs and his durability, but how long's Cody Walker going to play for?
Well, he started later too, and for him to continue to keep going, which is just show to some people listening that you're never too old to make it. And Cody's showing that, and he's obviously getting better and better. He seems like he's got a good balance with Wayne going back to the club. He seems a lot fitter. Like you said, that baggage of clear mind that it's gone. He's got a clear focus. I know Wayne went to the club this year and put guys like Cody. I'm not sure if it was Cody Walker, but I know that he sort of told Jack Whiten to pull himself into gear away from the club. And it's reaping benefits. You get benefits from making some changes away from footy, and I'm sure Cody was probably one of those players. By the look of him, he's fit and focused, and yeah, South are doing really well.
Looks like he's just found his groove. Like the success they had when they made grand final when Adam Reynolds was there. Then they had Ilias there, and they had issues in and around their halves. We saw last year Jack Whiten playing with Cody at halfback. They were swapping around positions. It just wasn't working. The puzzle wasn't put together last year, but this kid Humphries has come up. He's been given a really simple role from Wayne Bennett, and then Cody with the right dynamics around him, he just pulls the strings from everywhere, from the left side of the field to the right side of the field. His tempo out the back we speak about all the time is just world class. So he looks like he's got his boys firing at the moment, and they're playing a good style of footy. And it's really impressive from South Sydney because the lock that they who's their lock?
Oh, from Hubner.
Hubner. We gave him plenty of compliments on this show. He's been a real standout for him. Jai Arrow obviously in the middle there, but losing their skipper and Cam Murray there it's got to have a side effect. But they've come up with a really good style that suits for them at the moment.
Yeah, their balances. They had that one blemish in their comp this year from Sharks, and Sharks.
That was the one.
Yeah, the Sharks are always hard to beat there. But yeah, for South, they're going to continue to get better. As you said, Latrell will return this week and will make a difference. We will see where he plays. A team that is coming up against the Bunnies this week is the Roosters, and they went down to the Titans on the weekend, 30-12. Which is, it's one of those things that we're waiting for the Roosters to find their groove. They found their groove a few weeks ago, then went back to that sort of same style of football against the Warriors, come out and done it again against the Titans on the weekend, and they just weren't in the game. They were in the game early, but Titans just ended up running away with it. The completion rate was below 60%, around 60% for the Roosters, and as you know, where the game is at the moment, if you don't complete above 70%, 75%, you're no chance of winning against any team, let alone the Titans.
Yeah, I thought the Roosters, they obviously got into an early lead. I thought that their halves on the weekend let them down. You've got to state the truth, and obviously I worked there a little bit, but that's the honest truth. I think they'd probably admit that themselves. I think they capitalised enough opportunities, but they just didn't stick the knife in the coffin, and actually use that same phrase, stick the knife in the coffin from the game before, the week before. It's been 2 weeks in a row where the opportunities are there, but they're not mounting pressure. They're not, they're not capitalising or getting enough off the back of the momentum. And they did. Their forwards played really well on the weekend for the Roosters. Still some big issues there defensively. I think on their edges and through the middle, they had a soft try back end, let the Titans through.
Big Tino rolls over.
Tino threw under the post. There's a big moment in the game where Tedesco decided to take the tap as opposed to kick for goal, which was a big turning point in the game. If Teddy had his time again, does he take the 2 points or choose for the team to take the 2 points as captain? But yeah, I just think the Roosters are showing a bit of immaturity in their footy at the moment. But it's where they're at. They've obviously got a big turnover of players, and yeah, they're struggling just to get the team to get the wins get the game over the line is probably the best way to put it. And,
yeah, because they've had opportunities the last few weeks. They had opportunities to beat the Warriors over there. They fell up short of the last past opportunities, very similar against the Titans. Warriors scraped home that performance. But on the weekend, you give Titans as many as opportunities they did, Titans will make you pay because we know how they're playing. They've got that fast-flying footy through the middle, very similar to the Melbourne structure. They've got three halves, three fullbacks playing in the halves. Well, De Groot's more of a fullback, played really well for his first game this year. But I thought the way Campbell and Brimson are playing with their opportunities, if you give them opportunities, they're going to score points. Obviously, Campbell broke away the game with the intercept, or not broke away from the game, took the game in front for the Titans through a brilliance of an intercept and went away with it. Then the Titans ran away from there. They just kept going. A sort of walkover try from Tino. It just didn't look Roosters like, and that comes in I don't know if it's because the players that are letting that unfold aren't quite up to scratch to be playing first grade because of the turnover. They've got players that are coming through that are just filling in the numbers sometimes. Or it just means that they're just doing too much work in the middle and teams are identifying that and then just rushing back through the middle and scoring a pretty easy try for Tino.
They're leaking way too many points, and obviously Robbo would be disappointed with that. It's obviously that what they base the club on for a long time is that defence. And, it's been an interesting start for the Roosters. And as you said, big local derby this week against South Sydney. There's going to be no lack of and intensity from the atmosphere going into the game. Both teams got no excuses but to be up for it. So it's going to be a very good test. South are playing really well. Roosters need to learn how to close out games and find that little bit extra. So at the moment, there's a fair bit of pressure on Chad Townsend, Sandon Smith. Sandon's doing some really good stuff. He played really well the week before. Chad's obviously the old guy. It's a funny story with Chad because he was probably expecting to be a foil, and Sam Walker goes down, Luke Keary leaves to go overseas. So the club's in a bit of a tricky situation. But Chad's he's the old dog. He'd be handling this with ease, and it's probably more responsibility than he expected. But he's going to have to step up, and that's not mounting pressure on Chad. We've got a lot of time for Chad, and he's been a great player, but it is a bit on him as much as whether he wants that or not. He has to sort of somehow guide this younger group just to get some wins. They need some momentum.
Well, they stepped up when they played the Panthers a few weeks ago, and it was a much-needed win, but also an important win for the club. They hadn't beat Penrith in a long time, and the players come out and said it was one of their best wins possible, best wins ever along those lines. Importance, and you've played in plenty of them, when you come up against South Sydney, you've got to play well, you've got to win, and sometimes if you don't win any other game this year, this is an important one to win. South to beat Roosters or Roosters to beat South. So they're going to have to get up for it. And one player that will always be up for it is Victor Radley. And I want to talk about the last 2 weeks. He's had a head knock. He didn't go off. He didn't stay off. He passed his HIA. But it's always a concern when players week in, week out are getting head knocks. We know some players that obviously had to retire from it. It's an interesting one. Hopefully it doesn't keep happening. He can get through unscathed. But a few of them looked very light. For Victor's standards, but obviously he's passed him, so hopefully he can get on top of that.
Yeah, it's not good. You don't want to see that to any player, do you? And the more they keep happening, you know your stomach shrinks a little bit for him. It's sad to see, but he's that type of player where he's never going to play soft.
You can't.
His whole identity in the
players
style.
like that, when they say play soft, they might as well just hang the boots up, and that's not obviously where it's getting to for him. But it's just we're bringing it up just because it's a concern.
Yeah, you don't want to be getting back-to-back knocks. And as we said, though, what I was trying to get at, he's that type of player, as you said, he's going to keep being the enforcer, and his whole game's built off playing tough. So it's hard to protect your head unless you wear a crane over your head. Well, it is. You're going to constantly keep getting collisions around your head and shoulders. So let's hope for Victor he gets a good run, not only for himself and for the Roosters, because it's much needed, but for his own health.
So the next game we're going to be talking about is the Brisbane Broncos up against the Titans, where Brisbane went out winners 20-12. It was a wet night here in Brisbane. It was a strange one because it was the Finns' home ground, but it was at Suncorp, which will be different for the Broncos warming up in their away sheds. But they went out and got the job done. And one of our special guests last week, which I'm not going to mention his name, spoke about playing within himself in small parts of games to get into a game. And I thought Reece Walsh done this last weekend. He played within himself, but he played with composure and didn't come up with any errors. He got through what he needed to do. And we speak about it when you're in a bit of a form slump or people are starting to attack you about how you're playing. He went out and done that. Like I said, he didn't come up with any big plays, but he didn't come up with any poor plays. And I thought he done a really good job on Friday against the Dolphins.
Well, the ripple effect of a key player stripping it back and not overplaying the ripple effect is the whole team plays with more composure, and especially when you're in a key position. I want to ask you in a second what your processes were when being a key half in a lot of the teams you were playing in, what your processes were to get the team and yourself back on track. But it's such a big play and a matured approach from Walshies. Obviously, we've seen the last couple of weeks the erratic style of footy that he not only creates in his own game when he overplays, but also to the team. They don't play as steely. They don't play that long game as well. When he plays more simplified, does the dirty stuff well. When I say dirty, the 1%ers, support play, being busy for his teammates, not just himself. You see a more controlled style from the Broncos. And that's why I want to ask you, and me being a half myself, was I knew if I played with steel, and when I say steel to the viewers, it was kick well, tackle well, and be really controlled and organised and not go and be erratic. The whole team played different because the luxury of having that, or the power you have of being in those key positions, is you dictate the energy and the style for the team. And I just want to ask you, Toddy, because you brought up the Walshy, you noticed Walshy's a different approach. What was your go-to when you were struggling? You know, were you someone that went to overplaying out of fear, maybe potentially when you were younger you did, or did you go more introvert? Did you go more controlled?
Well, younger days, yes, because I didn't understand how to play a different way. So I played what was in front, eyes up footy, ad lib. I was a dominant runner, so that's what I always went to. And then when I was in a slump, I would always think run. And I was a bit like the player that goes, oh, you need to get more of a running game. So I started taking hit ups. Wasn't the right way when I look back at it now. But the thing you touched on was if you kick along, you lead your chase and you get in the game and you make a tackle. And I noticed him Walshy 2 weeks ago, first set of the game, he jumps in and takes a play one or play two, carry, finds his front. Didn't do it for the whole game, had a few mistakes. But on the weekend, he done it again. But he stayed at that process, continued to work at the long game. And as you said, when someone like Walshy plays that steely way, there's no errors coming out of your game. So then his team aren't making back-to-back defensive sets because usually his errors are early in a set. But they're coming up with extra ball because he's holding the pass. His kick chase was good. He was in everything still, but he didn't come up with the big plays. He just come up with what was needed. And I'm sure Madge, as being a smart coach, would have said to him, you just need to go out there, get through your job. You don't have to come up with big plays for us to win. We've got other superstars for the win. And another superstar we always talk about when a Broncos team wins or loses is Payne Haas.
Wow.
He just comes out and delivers again. And I spoke to you about it when we were at Kiba today. I've been trying to teach our forwards to run to space instead of bodies because we're big forwards. They're way bigger or stronger than other players, so they try and run and bump over them. But I watched Payne closely again on the weekend. He's running to space. So he looks up, he gets vision of where he's going to get to. Instead of running into bodies, he finds space and he's getting himself through and getting an offload into his game. But he was the difference again, even though the Broncos weren't tested too much. There was only 20-12, but for them, while Payne's in that kind of form, they're just going to continue to be a threat.
And Carrigan too, you know, you saw some of the impacts he had in defence on the weekend. Them two together, they're obviously great mates off the field, and you can see that they just when they have their heads on to go after teams, they're the two biggest enforcers in the comp, in my opinion.
Defensively, the Broncos are a way better outfit with Katoni Staggs.
Yeah, how good is he? He's one of my favourite players, Katoni Staggs. I love big centres. I love athletic centres. You talk about presence, about I was going to say GI there, but GI no doubt. But with Latrell, about presence. But Katoni Staggs, for me, he's got so much presence. You can tell the lads love him. He's that bit of an alpha out there. I just love the way he gets around the field. He's got an arrogance to him in a good way. Just his presence and he's intimidating. I reckon he's a rep footy player, and I reckon he should have played more rep footy. But
well, he makes the centre on the other side have doubt, and the centre on the other side the other night was Herbie Farnworth. Obviously, close relationship because they've been at the Broncos together before. Herbie moved on to the Dolphins, but Herbie still played reasonably well, but he was tested. If it was anyone else, Herbie gets on top of them that night, but Katoni makes him work. Even like his kick pressure from Mark, he makes blokes work, and he's always in the vision. Like as a half digging down a short side, are you worried about going down that short side because Katoni's there? We'll touch on Shimashaki. If I said that right, Gemmet Shimasaki.
I played with him.
Mate, he's been a revelation this year. He went on their development contract to earn his worth. Madge keeps him on, and he's just hasn't looked out of place. He's been refreshing for the Broncos, and he's keeping Dean Mariner out, which is a massive one. But yeah, he's been playing unbelievable.
Yeah, I played with Shipper at Newcastle. He came over 2020 season it was. Really good guy, but really good player too. He's sort of been in and out of teams since he came into first grade. But as far as an athlete and the way he's built and the way he moves across the field, he's as talented as most players in the competition. So started off at the Broncos in the early days. I'm not sure if he's from Brisbane or Cairns way, but yeah, super player. And he had a really good game. And we've said it every week. On paper, the Broncos squad is nearly as good as anyone, young and athletic. And, hopefully the next couple of weeks with what we said with Walshy there playing a bit more composed, and then with the halves that they've got, hopefully they can start to take off from the competition next few weeks.
We spoke a lot about the Broncos there, but obviously we have to touch on it. The Dolphins, one of two teams that haven't registered a win this year. Where does it come from for them? What's the missing part?
The disappointing thing for me, I love watching teams when they're in form slumps and how they deal with setbacks early in the game. So, for example, they're down by 12 points. You know, what's their body language like? Are they divided behind the line, or is their leaders there galvanising them? Because if you're starting to see disconnect in those moments, it can be a long way back. And then even at half time, they're obviously behind on the ladder. And I noticed there looked like a bit of uncertainty. This is only off the cameras in the change rooms, but anyone who's a player, you can relate to it when they're starting to become a bit quiet and look heavy. You can see there's a real lack of confidence, and that's natural after a fair few losses. But I think, commentated their first game against South and then watched them close. Obviously, we love watching Isaiah Katoa and Daniel Safidi's there, a good friend of mine. So I've been watching them closely, but they look heavy. I know they had the setback with the floods at the start of the year, and we said a few times that Hammer and a bit of stuff around their attack, they look a bit heavy and stagnant. They don't look loose and sort of play with freedom. And I think that was a bit of the same thing. Obviously, Isaiah Katoa will give a compliment when it's a half. We love getting behind the lads. He obviously threw that beautiful double pump pass. But besides him coming up with individual moments, because he's just got that skill, the rest of the team, for me, they just don't look – they're missing a beat.
Yeah, they're not threatening.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, they're not threatening. And I seen a comment this week, and I don't hate it. Also, I don't like changing it sometimes because it's forced to change. It's the same, maybe Herbie Farnworth to fullback and put the Hammer to the centres to give him a bit of time out of the not. I think Hammer looks flat. I don't think he looks as fast as he has in previous years, and maybe that's because he had the longer off season playing for Australia. If there's a bit of a lag or knock-on effect from that. But Herbie's their main threat. Every time Herbie gets the ball, he's dangerous. We watched Joey Manu when he was at the Roosters, when he'd go to fullback or six. He would have lots more touches than he would in the centres. While sometimes it wasn't the perfect touch or the perfect play, he would threaten the line. Where I think if Herbie does go back to fullback, if he does threaten the line, he'll do different things that the Hammer does. But Hammer will obviously, where things Hammer can do, Herbie can't do. So it's one of those things. It's going to come down to the coach. I don't hate it. And I don't like it. I think it would work. But for me, I've spoke to you about the Dolphins the other week. I just don't think their bench is threatened enough. Their 1 to 13 is threatening, but I think the guys that are coming off the bench, the opposite teams, when they bring their guys on, usually at the same time when you make subs or make changes, you go in against the guys that are sitting on the bench with you, and they're just not threatening.
Who have they lost? Dolphins. So they've
lost leaders in Bromwich. Kenny Bromwich isn't playing.
Yeah. So
there's massive two leaders there playing or not playing. Well, if they're both playing, they bring a presence because who they are. So they've lost them, and one of them's just not making the team. That's all they've really lost.
Yeah, that's what I just asked because they just look off the pace.
Yeah, I don't know if they've had a big preseason, a new change of coaching. Obviously, we talk about the Wayne Bennett knock-on effect or how it goes. But for us, we hope the Dolphins win. The next team that was on a duck egg for the start of the year was the Dragons up against the Storm. And I'm going to sit here and say it. When we sit in a position like this, we're going to get egg in our face. And Shane Flanagan's Dragons has smacked egg in my face and your face because we said the Storm would go out and lap them. And well done to the Dragons. They've showed glimpses, and you'll talk about it, that Dragons, your sleeping giants at the moment. But 14-8 against the Storm. Obviously, Storm was missing Jerome Hughes, but that's definitely not an excuse with the superstars they've got. But well done to the Dragons registering their first win for the year.
Yeah, it was wet conditions. It was a good dogfight. Like you said, I reckon I got half an egg on my face.
Do you half?
I backed Melbourne, so that's the.
Well, I'll get a couple eggs on the way home and smack a few more in your face.
So the half egg was that I backed Melbourne, but the other half.
You did actually. I'll give you that.
The other half of the egg is I've been saying, and you just said it, that I feel like the Dragons, even though they've been losing, have got a lot of potential, and they're the sleeping giant.
Mm.
Because what I've seen in their losses, there's been plenty of promise.
Yeah.
And I think that came to fruition on the weekend. They played. It's similar stuff that they've been doing, but they were able to sort of defend a little bit tighter on the weekend, and I think the conditions helped them against Melbourne. A dry track could have been different. Obviously, Jerome Hughes was out, but full credit to Dragons. They fought hard. It was a close game in the end. They were dogged, and the class on top with Gutherson and Valentine Holmes now is shining through. Jack DeBellin, I think, is always a great competitor for him.
Have you got a soft spot for the Dragons?
Honestly, I've got no attachment to the Dragons, no connection to the Dragons, no connection to Flano. But I like Flano as a coach.
Yeah.
I don't know him. But
he galvanises a group.
No,
and you speak about that, and that's one thing Flano has always done. He's went there a few years ago and said he was going to get change.
He's
got change. One thing he's got change is he's got pull to sign players. He's got pull to get obviously good players from other clubs to get there, and he's got that. He's got a roster in front of him. I thought they've been poor to start the year, but like I said, I've got egg on my face. You've got half an egg, I've got a couple.
Can't wait to throw another one at you.
Well, yeah, there you go. But well done to them. They go out and beat the Storms. People talk about, when players lose, teams lose their starting half, they always capitulate, and that's an excuse. Well, I don't think so for the Storm. I think the Dragons went out in a dogged fight and got the better of them in a wet weather footy.
Yeah, it was. That's what I said. They've been dogged. They haven't played for 80 minutes yet, but they got the job done. And yeah, I thought Melbourne on a dry track would have had a field day. I think it could have been a blowout.
Here it is.
But
here it is.
Mate, Dragons won.
Yeah.
Full credit to Dragons. And who they got this week?
I'm not too sure.
Whoever they got this week, I'm back. I'm back.
You're backing them again, are you? I don't know. It's one of those things for the Dragons. Para, they got Para.
I'm backing them all
every day of
day.
the week. No, Para needs a win. Come on, Para. Rollsy's got to start getting disappointed. But yeah, like you said, when you've got players like Gutho, Valentine Holmes, Damien Cook, Ilias, and then some players in around that, the guys you spoke about that on their day are really good footballers, they're going to be hard to beat if they put it together. And I always put the if, because they always struggled to have them lapses that let other teams come through and win. But on the weekend, they got the job done.
Gutho's a great competitor, isn't he? Just worth talking about him for a couple of minutes, because we're only speaking to one of our guests the other day about Gutho's influence. And Gutho, as a club footballer, he's so consistent. He's one of the best over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I reckon, from an NRL point of view, just as a week-to-week, all-in team player, competitor that gives 100% regardless of the conditions or the scoreboard, it's Clint Gutherson. I got a massive rap on him. I love watching him play. He's got no excuses in his game. They say he's the best trainer. He'd just be such a good guy to have in your club. There was a camera shot on him at the end of the game, just the passion he plays with. You know, you see some players, and that's another little subject to talk about. I was watching the game with my dad, one of the games, went over Friday night, it was his birthday. And Dad's a bit more old school, doesn't sort of comment too much about that stuff. But there was players after one of the games smiling and talking. And I even thought it, and we both had a bit of a giggle, like, that doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Anyway, I watched Gutho, just full of passion and just like, what you should be as a competitor.
Yeah.
But it just was worth highlighting, because you don't see enough of that. And it just shows how much it means to him. And some fans might be listening and going, well, that's everyone. Doesn't everyone think like that? I'm sure every player has that competitive edge, but some have it more. And yeah, I'm a big fan of him. So it's worth giving him a huge compliment, because he's a great club competitor.
Another team that was on a duck egg that registered their first win on the weekend was the North Queensland Cowboys up there in Townsville against the Raiders. So 30 Cowboys, Raiders 20. This was an up and down game for both teams. There was opportunities for both teams to win it. Our guy, Jake Clifford, steps up, owns the moment in a few big moments. Raiders hit back, but Cowboys showed their fight. And we said last week when they played the Broncos, they showed a fair bit of fight. They started really well. Broncos' defensive edge kept them out a few times, and they just sort of didn't go on with the job. But on the weekend, they did. Where did you see him?
Yeah, we'll watch the game together closely. Jake Clifford, hats off. That was about 5-minute period where he's jumped up, catch the kick over the top of the fullback. Looked like Brad Fittler on the first try, just bumping blokes off. Actually looked like Todd Carney.
Woo.
Bumping guys off, scores, and then had that big moment to set up a nice little offload in the second half. Moments after. Or it was the second half, I think. But yeah, Cliff. He's got that in him, Cliff. He's sort of a bit of a frustrating player, Jakey, because he's got so much talent, but we just don't see it enough. But I played with him, and I loved playing with him, and you've played with him a bit yourself. But yeah, he turned it on. It was his day, and deserves all the compliments. And the more he can do that for his side, they're going to have more wins. Simple as that. But it was good to see the Cowboys get the monkey off the back. Even through the early parts of the year, the first few rounds when they've lost, we're critical of their defence. It has tidied up the last couple of weeks. It was a bad word to use, but it was putrid. Those first couple of weeks.
It was, yeah. From their trial form to the start of the year, it was putrid.
They leaked up to close to 100 points from trials to the first few rounds, just passive as, slide defence on their try line. But yeah, improvement against the Broncos the week before, and then they played really well. But yeah, Jake Clifford, it was his day, and he's the man who deserves all the compliments.
Yeah, since Taumalolo's come back, they've found a bit of groove. They've found that, obviously, we talk about playing on the front foot and momentum. He creates that, but what he would do to the starting pack with him, he'd galvanise them to rip in and play forward. I thought John Bateman's performance on the weekend was a lot better. He played a little bit more free-flowing. It was like they gave him reins to play footy. Let him, when he used to at the Raiders, crab across through the back and find through the middle. And then I come off the bench again, had some really good touches. But, yeah, as you said, Clifford found a bit of a spark. Hopefully it's a spark they need to continue to win. They've got the Panthers in Penrith this weekend coming, so they're up for a tough challenge. But I think they've showed enough that why teams at the start of the year saying that Cowboys would be pushing there around the top 8. They've got a long way to go, but like anything, we know when you get rid of that duck egg, you get your first win. It builds a lot of confidence. It would have been a completely different week for the Cowboys this week up there. One team that would have been pissed off is obviously Canberra. Ricky wouldn't like that. He likes to go places and get a job done, and I think a few of the players had their jeans packed before their boots on the weekend, and it shows it's hard. We speak about attitude and getting up for performances. I thought they let it slip.
Yeah, that's 2 in a row now for Canberra, and they've got to get back on the horse this week.
They've got Sharks this weekend too. Down in Canberra, which is a tough challenge, Thursday night. Our first game off for round 5, but it's a tough one for Canberra.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and as I said, they've got to get back on the horse. They'll only be going 3 and zip over the last few weeks. Obviously showed some really good form, but this is sort of the Canberra we see consistently. Consistency.
That was the word of the week last week.
Yeah, we'll get your words of the week at the back end of the show. You've got to get some Todd Carney wisdom later on. But yeah, I know you hate hearing about Canberra's inconsistency, but it's true. Yeah, they've got to get back on the horse this week, in my opinion, because they've got a really good side there again this year. But let's not go. I hope we don't get to see Canberra of the last few years where it's up and down and it's up and down. What do you put that down to? I mean, it's early in the year and they've been playing good footy, but why do we see so much of a difference from week to week for Canberra?
Well, it's a hard one. It's $1 million question because that we've been speaking about this for a long time. If it's the travel when they play down in Canberra, it's a hard place to play, or is it just I don't know. I don't know. It's a hard one because I've been there in the positions before, and you don't think about it. We don't talk about it. Obviously, I'm sure they might now. Ricky might talk about it, but they're in games. That's the thing. There's promise in every game for the Raiders. They don't go out and get towed up. They're always in a fight. First 40 minutes, they're always in a dogfight. It just is small little lapses. It's like when something goes against them, it snowballs straight away. So like a few weeks ago against Manly, tit for tat, they score, gets disallowed. Manly rush on 24 points. On the weekend, tit for tat, Clifford scores from a nothing sort of play. Next set, they roll down the field, puts up a kick, and Clifford gets it again. And it's just like things happen really fast, and they don't know how to get out of it. And that's what seems to happen. They probably need to fix it up against the Sharks. The Cronulla Sharks 6, Bulldogs 20 at Shark Park, which is a massive win for the Bulldogs. And we spoke about it before. The teams always make excuses when they lose some of their top players. The Dogs don't make excuses. They're 4 from 4. They've had Burton out and Kiko the last 2 weeks. Bailey Hayward at 6 for the Dogs, and he looks like a complete 6. And then they've went down to Cronulla Stadium, Shark Park, and just pulled their pants down. They beat him to the punch in everything.
Hayward was awesome. I love watching him play. It's good to see a little half come on. Both of them just look like little footy heads. Hayward and Sexton, I thought they played really well. They're well coached there. Jason Taylor's there. I've got a massive rap on JT. He's a bit of an unsung hero in all the clubs he goes to. I had him at the Roosters in 13, taught me a hell of a lot. But the way that they're playing, I saw Serraldo talk in his press conference after the game. The first couple of years he was there, it was very much front-loaded into the defence systems, and then they worked hard on their attack this year. And I think a few weeks ago we spoke about teams playing from shorter percentages and really attacking those centres and with hard leads. And the Dogs are starting to look a little bit like Penrith with some of their sequences. And when I say Penrith, those really nice, clean block shapes, and everyone's in the right timing. So, and that's full credit to the halves. You can't play like that unless you've got smart halves. And they're a really good side. And even Bronson Cherry there at the end, we both spoke about his try when he just bumped through like some of the great centres where he just used power and strength coming back on an angle. They've got a really complete team, and I heard Andrew Johns on Channel 9 speak about it. The great Andrew Johns spoke about that he thinks that they're in the next couple of years they're a genuine premiership threat, and he even said potentially this year. And you can't argue with it, because to win a competition you need to be the best defensive team. They're not just 3-week good defensive side. They've been solid for now 18 months, and they're only going to keep getting better. They've got a great coach. I was in awe of him after the game, watching his press conference. Just his, you've been around the traps for a while like we have, and you've seen it all, and you've seen different press conferences and coaches. Mate, he's the real deal. And you can just tell the way he holds respect from all the different cultures in the team and all the different lads, from older guys to younger guys. They're in a really good hands there, the Dogs. And like you just said, premiership teams win when their best players aren't playing.
That's right. It's easy to make excuses when you've got a player like Burton and Kiko out. Players have stepped up. Young Hayward goes in at 6, and we spoke about it watching the game together, is that he actually looks more complete at 6 than what Burton does, because he's got the knack to play away from the short sides where Burton sits predominantly on his left side. He's obviously got an unbelievable kicking game, but he holds his left side where Bailey sort of is happy to jump to the open, happy to play at the back of Toby a few times. He laid on a few tries. And Jacob Preston, he's definitely he wears a blue jumper every week, but he'd be chasing a sky blue jumper this year if he continues this form.
He's an Australian player, isn't he?
Oh, he's
Future
Australian player, the way he works, and they all work hard for each other. You couldn't miss Jaden Semin on the weekend with his bleach blonde hair, and I'm not going to bag blokes about hair because I've had a few myself, but I like the way they've changed it, where at the start of the year, Kurt Mann was in everything. Semin's the same, and they don't miss a beat when one of them goes off or one comes on, because they're very similar. They make the attacking team work hard for their meters. They push on every play. They kick pressure. They hunt together. But it shows in everything. One player I want to talk about is a special one, is Bronson Xerri. He obviously had his issue with what went on. He owned it. He's moved on from it. Where would he be regarding top centres in the world if he had those 4 years back?
Yeah, it's a good question. He would have played a lot more rep footy, I reckon. It's a credit to him though, isn't it? Like, to have 4 years out and then still maintain the focus to want to come back. Like, that's not easy to do. There's a lot of players that would cop that punishment, and if they didn't have as much resilience, you'd probably find another path. Like if you didn't have a real deep desire, and you see the way he plays, he was obviously training there with Roger Fabry for a fair while, and staying fit. You talk about the eye of the tiger. He looks like he's a staunch looking dude, isn't he? And
speaking of Roger about him, Roger said that he tested him a few times through his training and work ethic, and he just said he didn't budge. And that shows someone. And he said it from the start when he had his opportunity, when he was coming near the end of his ban. He goes, "I've worked me backside off to get back to where I know I belong." And when someone says that, it knows that they're ready to come back and and have a real red hot crack about it. And there's always going to be people who have opinions about it. But like anything, if you do your time, happy days, come back and he's reaped the benefits of it, and he's playing really good. And I'm with Joey about the Dogs. At the moment, they're sitting on the top of the ladder on their own. They've had the 4 wins, no losses. So
I've got a question for you. Can you win a comp without having 2 world-class centres now? Like we always talk about the importance of halves. This isn't halves and your fullbacks and hookers 100% necessities to win a competition. But it just made me think then, Cherry and Crichton. Isaiah Tago.
They had Alamotti last year.
Alamotti, Broncos, Katoni Staggs.
You need strike centres. You need strike centres and you need genuine centres.
Mate, without that, I just think big games, rep games, and these top sides when they want to defend with presence and aggression, and then the guys with the icing on the cake, big centres, man. You think about the great teams: Justin Hodges, Brent Tate, Israel Folau, Mark Gasnier, Matt Cooper, Matt Gidley, Tamana Tahu.
Mate, the list goes on.
You need great centres.
And the elite is at our game is Crichton at the moment. Watching him on the weekend, it was poor Atkinson comes on and fills the spot in the centres and just gets an absolute bath from Crichton. Gets away from the game. What disappointed you from the Sharks?
Yeah, I was disappointed in the Sharks, but I think it highlighted we're critical on the Sharks because their form over the last few years is obviously red hot till the big day, and then they're slowly starting to. They've shown weakness in the big games, big moments, and I felt like on the weekend, without sticking the knife in, it was just a bit of an off day, and Dogs played really well, but we just saw on the back foot again when they're not getting momentum. I just feel like there's a few times there, Nico going to early kicks. When they're not feeling space, they've got a little bit of erratic footy in them. And it's a delicate conversation because they've been going really well and everyone has an off day. And it wasn't just on their halves. But, you play against the best defensive team. That's the truth, I think. The Dogs are the best defensive team in the comp at the moment, system-wise. And it brings out the dark side of you as an attacking half. It's a difficult way to play.
Well, they make you work for your plays.
And that's what I don't think Cronulla's good at.
Yeah.
I don't think their halves, when the pressure's on and the ruck's slower, and a lot of halves are in this situation, but we've seen it in big games last year, when they're on the back foot, and they're not getting that space, they can struggle. And without trying to be too critical, it's the facts. And that's something that they need to keep improving on because it's going to get highlighted again in the big games at the back end of the year. And there's a couple of moments there from Nico when I know it was probably a set play, but they went for that early kick about 3 times. One was a beautiful kick. They got an error from the centre. I think it was Iro or Jesse Ramian. Similar to that Nathan Cleary kick we see when he went out the back and then had that early kick. Great play.
Yeah.
And he's gone to it about 3 times. And that's from defensive pressure.
Yeah.
You go to kicks as your plan B when you're getting defensive pressure. But, we see it quite often there where it's when they're not getting the room, they go within themselves.
What's the cue to fix that? Do they need to go back to rolling the ruck through the middle? Does Brayley at hooker need to take some pressure off him and play some footy? Because he would be the first guy that identifies that they're not going forward. Does he need to actually take some pressure on his back a fair bit and take the halves out of it for a little bit and let him control the game and get some momentum for the team, and then let them play back in the game? Or do they keep going the way they are? Because as they say, we look at them when they play against not the mediocre teams, but when they're up against the stronger teams, that they struggle to finish the moment. And as you said, we've spoken about the Dogs, that they'll make every team they play against earn their points. And on the weekend, the Sharks just didn't look the same.
Well, you can't flinch in big defensive arm wrestles. You can't flinch, and you got to learn to play within the chaos, don't you? And that means playing that long game. That means holding your tongue and being able to kick and build pressure for 5 sets, kicking the door in, ball playing under a bit of ball playing when you don't have space and room. Being happy to play short and then get on the back of a kick chase. And because I think we see when Cronulla have space and time, they're beautiful players. Weird word to use, but they are. They're beautiful players. That Nico plays so well with space. When space is taken away from you, we see a lot of these players, that type of space player go to a kick or go to the quick fix straight away, and then you slowly lose the arm wrestle.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the issue for Cronulla.
The highlight on the weekend for me was not involved in the game. Well, the player was involved. Tilly Tupanua gets 10 in the bin with 1 second on the clock, and he vacates the field. And I seen Big Andrew Fafita. I was talking to him last night. He commented on a report from the media saying that he had a crack at Tilly Tupanua about what went on. And Fafita's come out and said that he was only telling him that he doesn't have to go in the box because the game was over. I like it. I like Fafita coming out and challenging, because we sort of sit back in our chairs sometimes, and when we're retired players, but as players you get a lot of stick from the media. People hammer you. But now Fafita's got a voice, and he's got a voice. He loves having an opinion about it, and so he should. If he didn't say it, he's come out and made the person that reported that he had a go at Satilli own the comment, and well done to him. So that's my little like out of that game. There wasn't much for the Sharks, but well done for Fafita for sticking up for himself on the weekend and coming out and attacking the journo that sort of tried to attack him.
Who was the journo?
Don't know. I won't hammer him. I'm staying away from journos. I've got Buzz on my side. Although I see Buzz has got a podcast, so if you are listening, Buzz, and I know you do, you're our number one viewer other than Con, get us on.
Come on, ours, Buzz.
Come sit in this little cute box. We've got it's plenty of room for you, so bring a mate if you want, or bring an army. But
that'd be a good conversation.
It would be good to chat to Buzz. I would like to see some dark secrets he's got on me.
Even just general chat, like Buzz. You think about Buzz; he's been around the game for longer than all of us. Seen all the good, the bad, the ugly. Seen his views on football. So Buzz, you're open to a seat here whenever you want, brother.
One person I would love to sit down and talk to is that man who's been in the media this week. He's Daly Cherry-Evans. His team went out winners 26-12 Eels on the weekend at 4 Pines Park. What a place they're building there at home. They'll be tough to beat. As they say, if they play every game there, Manly will win the comp every year. But it's hard to say because you can't play at home every week. But on the weekend, they'll invest themselves. And we gave a credit to Cherry-Evans, the way he spoke and the way he's handled this whole situation. But on the weekend, he had his hand in everything. The sad light out of the game again is Tommy Turbo's went off with a knee injury, which is never pleasant. Hopefully scans aren't as bad as they're saying. But hopefully for him that he'll be back. But it's a concern.
So sad to see, obviously, with Turbo. There was a line break there. Bullimore, I think it was, went through, and you could see Turbo in support, and he couldn't open up. Hopefully there's some genius physio out there or chiropractor that can just have the magic hands, because it's so sad to see as NRL fans, but even just for him, it must be so frustrating. Like, you got the Ferrari there that she's not getting the right petrol.
The right petrol. We spoke about Roger Fabry before, and Roger Fabry said that he's happy to put, I don't know about if it was his reputation or something, but he said, give me time with Turbo and I'll bring him back to the best. So maybe the fuel for the Ferrari. Roger would love it.
Hey, Roger, you've been pestering us about you getting on the podcast and getting a comment. Well, there it is. We're giving you some fame now.
We'll get him on in, just talk about what PC means about the petrol in a Ferrari, because we spoke about the Rolls Royce last week. Now he's talking about Ferraris.
Well, the Rolls Royce and the Ferrari. We love seeing it as fans.
100%.
There's nothing better than
we can talk about it every week.
Chuck in the Mercedes and the Range Rovers. Chuck them all in. There's plenty of There's so many good players in this comp that are at the top.
Who's the Harley Davidson of the NRL? Fanua Blake.
Fanua Blake's the Harley Davidson.
Yeah, he's a tough looking dude. Him and Ola Kawatu. Actually, we'll go for Ola Kawatu because we're touching on Manly. He's the Harley Davidson. He's just a big Harley, just right on the weekend. He was riding a Harley, rolling through that right side.
I reckon Fanua Blake's like a G-Wagon. You know what I mean? Black on black, cruising through Mascot.
Who's an Impala? There's someone who Latrell's an Impala, just doom, 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 up and down.
Yeah, the Ferrari
got the hydraulics.
But the Ferrari's our man Turbo.
Yeah,
and just find him some. Let's go to Saudi Arabia and get the best petrol we can get. Let's get the oil sent over because we want the best. We need some sheik from Saudi Arabia giving him the Rolls Royce of petrol, of oil, because we need him fired up. We need him healthy. Honestly, it's so frustrating to watch. But honestly, Manly, with or without him at the moment, are still going really well, which isn't a common thread over the last few years. Their win percentage without him is not great, but yeah, Cherry-Evans just owned the moment again.
Class again.
Yeah, we watched it together, and just his ability to bounce on play for play, popping up everywhere, swinging from one side of the field to the other. But you spoke about Ola Kawadi. What car was he again? He was a Harley.
He's the Harley for me.
He's a Sergeant of Arms. But he was dead. He was dead set. He ran over. Cherry played one play there, was just nothing on, just hit him short, and he ran over 3 players.
Yeah, he actually surprised himself because when he gets in the clear, he actually slows down and waits for contact. But he needs to work on that when he gets in the clear, because if he runs like that every week, he's going to be in the clear a lot.
I think he had a gold chain on too. He had his
gold
Harley
chain
with a gold
earring.
chain.
He's got the patch on underneath his Manly jumper. Patch him up.
He is, mate. Manly though, they're intimidating. See what Takiaho's another one.
It was outstanding on the weekend. Obviously, they lose one of their middles last week for his Achilles, but Siwa's been a really good signing for them this year. Come back from the Super League, and
especially with Sipley out.
Yeah. So they're missing there, but yeah, they were good on the weekend. I thought their outside backs iced some tries really well. We talk about Ferraris.
Well, young Hopewadi going to fullback.
Yeah, and he doesn't look out of place there. He still continues to get through his workload. We talk about players when they move different positions, and what you get out of Jai Gray, he works on every play. Hopewadi obviously gets the catches at fullback, brings them back, but he also jumps in and goes out of dummy half and takes the workload out of the middle. So I think he's doing a really good job there. For Manly, they need Turbo, I think, to win the comp. So hopefully,
can they win it?
Oh, I think they can. I think they're good enough in patches. We've obviously got our debate of what they need to work on when they're playing off the back foot and away from home and things like that, or when teams really upset them. I think the big challenge for me is when Manly play the Bulldogs. We'll see where they're at in that style of footy, because Louis spoke about Bulldogs making them work. We've got to touch on the Eels again. They haven't registered a win again yet. Them and the Dolphins. I thought we were light on the Dolphins, but the Eels, I feel sorry for Rolsey. Rolsey's gone there. He's got a good roster. I feel he's got a good roster. Obviously, they're waiting for Mitchell Moses to come back, and I'll be more of a judge when Mitchell comes back, because I'm not making excuses for the Eels at the moment, but there's some passengers out there. They are playing like they train. They're not playing like they train. It looks like a training run to some of them. They're not. Their effort area is below par.
Well, they'll be training top shelf, because Rolsey's been in the best system, so you can't. We're not there, but from all their training standards and everything like that's not the issue. It can't be the issue. Rolsey's trained at the best coaching. He's been at Melbourne Storm, at the Roosters. His first start. So
no, what I'm saying is they're on the field like they're having a training run.
Yeah.
So when you do unopposed at training, you don't. There's no one to run into to go direct into the line or take someone's inside shoulder. They're playing as if they're having a captain's run every set. They're setting up for something.
They just look so disconnected. There was a perfect example there on the right side defenseman Lomax. It was just so they were just so on different pages. Lomax comes out. There was a simple block play, and Lomax has come out outside in. If there's footage from the boys there at Hello Sports, but he's just come outside in, and the block runner just runs in his inside shoulder. It was just a simple block play, and there was just no communication. That was just one example, but I don't know how they're in that position, because there's some quality players there in and around. Like, yeah, they're missing Mitch Moses, and they've got a few players in and out of the squad, but there's enough seasoned NRL players there to be connected. I want you to touch on Dylan Brown, and we're not people that are going to not stick the knife in, and we hate doing that. We've been in positions and we've dealt with pressure, but I just want you to talk on Dylan Brown. I'm not going to harp on the money figure and the Newcastle deal and all that, but just purely on where they're at and what they need more from him, and just that. We spoke about having a firecracker up your ass a little bit at the start of the year, and I'm going to be honest about that. I want to see Dylan. I want to see Dylan compete and go after the game. But what's your thoughts on it all?
Well, we were talking about it a lot, and Dylan's had a lot on his plate. But that lot that's on his plate is now gone. He signed his contract with the Newcastle Knights, and it's all moved on. There's not much talk about it. But now there's talk about the way he's playing. And I've seen some things on the weekend that it seemed like his attitude was not in it. Like the effort area. So once they went down when Saab scored, they got on the outside of him, and then Saab decided not to pass and broke through the tackle. But if Dylan Brown didn't give up on that play, he actually would have been able to reach Saab. But he stopped on the play once he'd gone past him because he may have thought that he was going to pass inside, so he wouldn't have got to that guy. But he took the wrong option. Saab still ended up scoring the try, but I thought Dylan Brown, that was one for me in defensively. But just in his attack, he's not engaging the line. Dean Hawkins is doing a really good job inside of him, but I feel Dylan can go after the ball. Who knows if he's going to play 7 at Newcastle, but I feel he needs to take the game by the scruff of the neck and actually show that he's interested. Because at the moment, for me, it doesn't look like to me he's interested in playing.
He has to be interested though. And I'm agreeing with what you're saying, but he's a professional footballer who's just signed for huge money. Is it just his temperament?
It could be. It could be his temperament as a person.
Because I agree with you. It does come across sometimes that he's not that do or die attitude is not always doesn't always come out.
But when your team is 4-0,
yeah,
that temperament has to change at some point because you're the next best. You're the best player in that team,
and he has to.
He's got young kids at Isaiah Yongi at fullback. He's got younger halves inside him. He's got a young 9. They've got a young pack. They've got a new coach. He has to step up. Dylan Brown, he can't wait for Mitchell Moses to come back. He has to step up.
He's got to develop his game and start taking that team, putting the team on the back of his shoulders.
Well, if it means anything to him, I would. Yeah, he has to show them because we know that he can show different footy.
He's done this in periods of his career. His best seasons, he was touching the ball a lot more than he is. He was competing, and we're not questioning his competitiveness. But
I'm not questioning his ability either. I just think that he's playing below standards, and I just feel that if Para to get wins, and this is what we were talking about, Para is still 4-0, 0-4.
He needs to take the reins.
He needs to take the reins, and then once he does take the reins and Para start winning, I'll give him glowing light. But I feel that it's. And he won't even listen to this, and it's not going to be a budge to him, but we're there to talk about it because there's Para fans listening, and I believe he needs to start having a crack. Our last game of the round, it was the West Tigers up against the Warriors at Campbelltown Stadium. The Warriors went out winners 26-24. We watched this game again together. It was anyone's game. It was back and forth. But credit to the Warriors, we questioned how they were playing from after Vegas, about side to side and instead of north-south. But on the weekend, they were north-south again, and they took their opportunities, and Metcalf kicks a 40-metre penalty goal late in the game to ice the win. But for me, both teams were impressive. Both teams showed enough on the weekend that if they continue this form and get better, I've spoken about him the last 4 weeks, Terrell May, a player that the Roosters could be using. And I speak about his stats, and he's the only player I talk about stats because they're so impressive. 80 minutes on the weekend.
80 minutes. 202
metres, 48 tackles and 1 miss. He's missed 4 tackles and over 180 tackles in 4 weeks, and he's had 4 misses for 180 tackles, and he's ran over 800 metres in the last 4 games.
He's the best forward in the comp at the moment, and those stats.
Fanua Bolle is just not far behind him. 22-year-old from Wellington. That's the difference for the Tigers. Yes, they didn't get the win on the weekend, and credit to the Warriors for sticking in and staying in the fight. But the Tigers, obviously there's some sour note coming out. Jerome Luai will be either suspended for 1 week, and also he's gone for scans on that shoulder. But yeah, Tigers, they're impressing me.
Well, we're saying the Tigers are showing improvement, but of course they are. Their squad's completely different. You know, they've got Terrell there, as you just said. We've got Jerome Luai, who's a 4-time premiership winner. Galvin's one of the best young halves in the game. Buller is a out-and-out superstar at the back, and you've got Abby Coruscant. Their spine itself is one of the better ones in the comp.
So is anything top 8 a fail?
I think top 8 will be a good effort for the Tigers, but on paper, as we said, if they stay injury-free, they've got a good roster, and we're seeing that. We're seeing them play better footy, but they're not the same Tigers of old.
No, and you can't talk about the same Tigers of old, the ones that won the wooden spoon.
No.
Because half the players in that squad haven't even felt the wooden spoon or felt the effects of finishing last.
No, so they're starting to, they're playing with what they've got, and I still think they've got a lot of improvement. Even their outside back, Stafford Tower's playing really well. Taruva, we say every week, is a good player. They just got quality across the board, but yeah, this game got away from them. I thought the Tigers were the better team. Benji came out after the game and spoke about some hard calls, and I can't begrudge him for that. I think they were hardly done by in a couple of big moments there. Warriors obviously knocked the 2 points over at the end, but on the Warriors, and you reminded me when we were watching about their position on the ladder, they've sort of been a bit of an unsung, bit of a sleeping giant. Like I knew that they'd been winning the last few weeks, obviously, but I didn't expect, from what I've seen from them, that I don't think they've been brilliant. But
but you don't have to be brilliant to win games.
No, that's what I'm saying. They're under the radar and they're going well and they're winning. They haven't played the best sides in the comp yet in those big intensity games yet. But they're ticking the wins off and they're doing well. Obviously, round 1 was disappointing, but yeah, they're going well. They're playing a steady side, steady style of footy.
What's impressing you the most about the Warriors?
I just think we talk about long game. I think they're playing the long game well. You know, Metcalf starting to take control. You know, obviously got a good pack there with Mitch Barnett and Fisher Harris up front. Yeah, as I said, I don't think the Tigers. I thought the Tigers were a better side.
Yeah, we were sitting there watching. We were ready to put the cue in the rack and say, well, the Tigers had won.
I think the Warriors have got to go up a few gears. Like that's what I said. They're a bit of a sleeping giant. They're ticking away nice wins, but they haven't had a real big couple of weeks where they're playing the best sides in the comp. I don't think the form they're showing is good enough to beat Melbourne and potentially Broncos at their best at the moment, those type of sides. But full credit to them. They're going well for where they're at. But, yeah, Tigers. I love watching the Tigers play. I just think, you know, hopefully the Tigers can be injury-free and we're going to keep seeing improvement. It's a bit of a worry if they lost to Terrell or Fanua Bole, I think there could be some struggles there because those guys are holding forward in the middle there, and obviously Jerome now being out, it's going to be interesting how they hold up with him.
He's a good footballer, Galvin.
Yeah, Galvin's great. That
competitor,
nice short ball down the short side. Everything he does, he's always just throwing punches at you. He's a really really good player. So, but Tigers are good to watch. They're exciting. They look young.
They do.
Like when you watch them,
they look fresh.
You can think they're a 20s team. Some of their outside backs, when you watch them, they look fit and fast, but young, and they've got a bit of Benji about them, don't they?
Any inside mail on May? Will he go there? Taylor May.
I can't disclose. I don't know.
Okay,
but
I won't pry anymore.
Be great to see all 3 of the brothers there. That'd be nice for that club. But honestly, you go back to Terrell. Like, if you're picking an Origin or an Australian team just on pure performances, what's your job as a front rower? Run over 200 metres if you can. Don't miss any tackles.
Well, he's a sign of the year
and
so
play
far.
Big minutes. He's done that every week.
Yeah, he's been impressive. And the Tigers, we talk about improvement, and I feel every team's improving. Obviously, there's some teams had losses on the weekend that probably should have won, but there's improvement from overall of all the games, all the teams. I think it shapes for a busy back end of the year for teams. I think teams will be chasing their tails around finals time when the ladder counts. At the moment, the ladder means jack shit. But when the ladder counts, I think there's going to be some teams looking going, oh, I wish I won that game early on. I wish we sort of went better in this patch of the year. Origin's going to play a massive part for a lot of teams. So you need to bank up more wins when you can.
Who's going to be affected the most out of Origin, just off the top of your head?
Well, the Storm will. They'll lose. Oh, the Storm will lose Harry Grant, Munster, Coates, maybe Pappenhausen.
Mm.
I don't know who will lose the most. Panthers. Well, Panthers will lose a few. But that's a wrap for the week of the reviews of Footy Nerds. It's been a pleasure, actually. If you weren't going back to France and if I lived in Sydney or you lived on the Gold Coast, we'd be cracker show together. We'd probably fight a few times. But it's been good sitting here actually chewing the fat with you. And my word of the week is don't dip your toe in the water. Dive in head first and have a fucking crack.
I like that.
Yeah.
Only
our
cowards
mentality.
dip their toe in.
Yeah, don't dip your toe in and check if it's cold because it means you're not going to get in anyway.
Go down swinging. We've only got one life.
Yeah.
You know
We've
what I
had a
mean?
few lives. We've had a few.
You're a cat. 9 lives.
I've
bro.
had about fucking 50 lives.
But it's a good day. I love that. Go after everything.
Go after everything. So
Back yourself. Put your balls on the line.
So,
Footy
so,
nerds.
So to our footy nerds, don't dip your toe in. Go in head first and ask us some deep and meaningful questions for this Wednesday because we're back at it again Wednesday, answering all your questions. And I want you to really get deep. Find something. Find a bit of energy. Con's the only bloke that calls up and gives us energy. Find some energy and come at us.
And one more thing. Stay in the fight, brothers.
And consistency wins.
And play upstream.
North-south.
North-south footy.
Let's go.